Everything, all the stars were aligned, everything was just perfect. It was this beautiful woman just sort of literally tripped and fell into my life. I fell into her life.
Life in the British royal family is like nothing else. It is a life of duty, of service and privilege. However, it comes at one great cost: freedom. Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex, has struggled to endure a very public life, only made worse by the tragic loss of his mother at a young age.
We have all been trying to help William and Harry come to terms with the devastating loss that they and the rest of us have suffered.
Despite this, Prince Harry has devoted much of his life to the betterment of many causes close to his heart, from veterans to poverty to mental health. His honesty and openness endeared him to millions, and for a long while, he was consistently voted the most popular member of the royal family.
I wouldn't have joined the army unless I thought I was going to. If they said, no, you can't go frontline, then I wouldn't drag my sorry ass through Sandhurst.
In this documentary, we will take a look at the prince's complicated past and see what the future could have in store for this new kind of royal.
I think there is now an allegation of racism hanging over a member or members of the royal family. We don't know who, not the Queen, not the Duke of Edinburgh, but beyond that, we don't know who. Harry and Meghan wouldn't say.
They're clearly very unhappy with the royal existence that they have at the moment. The crux of the matter is you can't be half royal.
Prince Harry has always struggled to simply fit in to the archaic institutions of monarchy. His rebellious nature doesn't come as a surprise to anyone that remembers his mother, the original royal rebel, Princess Diana.
It's almost impossible to describe to a stranger or someone who's never met Princess Diana what she was really like. What I usually say is she was as beautiful inside as she was out. But to meet her was something special. She lit up a room. She stopped traffic. And when she entered into a room, everything stopped and all eyes were on her. I've never met another human being who had that aura, who had that charisma, the same as Princess Diana.
Is there any possibility of any announcement of your marriage in the near future? Can you tell me? Can you tell me if there's any possibility?
I'm not going to say anything, afraid.
Right, but Prince Charles did give us a hint himself. He said we wouldn't have to wait too long.
Just as Charles fell immediately in love with Princess Diana, or Lady Diana Spencer as she was at the time, so too did Britain. We hadn't seen the likes of a future princess like this for many, many years, and Diana was just a stunner. Innocence about her, you just thought, wow, this girl is a knockout. So there was a huge interest from the moment the engagement happened. Everyone watched the engagement footage. Everyone around the world, pretty much, tuned into the royal wedding.
Here is the stuff of which fairy tales are made. The prince and princess on their wedding day.
On July 29, 1981, Lady Diana married Prince Charles and became Her Royal Highness the Princess of Wales in one of the most extravagant weddings in modern history.
Fairy tale dress, the golden carriage, the beautiful ceremony at St. Paul's, the blushing bride, the proud prince. It just ticked all the boxes. It was the fairy tale wedding, or so we all thought.
Prince William was born on the 21st of June, 1982. 2 years later, his brother was born, Prince Harry. Despite being born into royal privilege, Prince Harry's life hasn't been easy. He has endured tragedy, heartbreak, and loss.
Diana really broke the mold. When it came to parenting, she did things differently.
She loved to have fun. She loved to giggle. She loved to play practical jokes. And she loved nothing more than cuddling up with her 2 boys, watching TV and watching game shows and soap operas. And the boys were the center of her world. William, although he looks like his mother, is more like his father. He's studious, he's very careful, he's very respectful, he's duty-bound. Harry, on the other hand, is a hybrid of the Spencers' red hair and the Windsors, but he has his mother's naughty streak. Harry is the fun guy. Harry was always the boy that would take apart the television set. The video recorder, he would have in bits and want then to put it back together again. Harry was always the soldier, William was always the general.
William's education was at Eton College. William's mother, Diana, Princess of Wales, insisted that he went to Eton, as did her father and her younger brother Charles. Prince Charles acceded to this. He went to Gordonston, where he was thoroughly miserable. He allowed his sons both to go to a very elitist school. It's very elite, it's very expensive, it's very posh, if you will, but it also has a degree of freedom for the pupils. They are encouraged to be self-confident and to find themselves.
Diana, she really didn't think Eton was right for Harry. He ended up getting a place and he ended up going and he ended up doing very well. But there was a serious thought at the time that perhaps Eton wasn't the right choice and maybe they would look at somewhere else. In the end, both boys went to Eton, and in doing so, they set a royal precedent.
The Wales marriage was infamously turbulent, and by the late 80s, it was becoming increasingly clear that cracks were forming behind the happy family facade.
I think if Princess Diana and Prince Charles had been ordinary people, they'd have probably got divorced a lot sooner than they eventually did. You had this period of several years where they were sleeping in separate bedrooms. Apparently, post-1986, they were leading rather separate lives. You've then got Charles going off and not only pursuing his own country interests and indeed his relationship with Camilla Parker Bowles, as it now turns out, but Diana also seeking solace from some of her own male friendships, and essentially a schism has been created in their marriage where they're living under the same roof but very different lives.
To anyone in the know, it was very obvious that the Wales' marriage was in real trouble by the late 80s, and inevitably the announcement was made by the then Prime Minister John Major that Diana and Charles were going to separate. Now, Diana knew that this was going to ricochet, and she made sure that the first people who found out that they were going to separate were William and Harry, and she actually made the drive to Ludgrove School herself to go and tell them. And Harry took it very badly, of course, being younger than William. He was incredibly upset. William was very stoic and said to his mother, well, if you're happier, if you're going to be happier, Mummy, then this is the right thing to do.
Finally, in 1996, after 4 years of separation, Prince Charles and Princess Diana divorced.
Diana, Princess of Wales, has been seriously injured in a car accident in Paris. Her companion, the Harrods heir Dodi Al Fayed, has been killed. The driver of the princess's car is also understood to be dead. The accident happened at just after midnight in the west of the city near the Alma Bridge.
There is no doubt that Harry has always struggled with his relationship to the press. It is clear that he still holds resentment towards the paparazzi that chased his mother, Princess Diana, that fateful night in Paris when she was killed in a car crash.
First, I want to pay tribute to Diana myself. She was an exceptional and gifted human being. In good times and bad, she never lost her capacity to smile and laugh, nor to inspire others with her warmth and kindness.
On August 31st, 1997, Princess Diana of Wales was killed in a car accident. The driver of the car, Henri Paul, lost control at high speed and struck the 13th column of La Alma Tunnel in Paris. Diana died 4 hours later in hospital from extensive internal injuries.
I admired and respected her for her energy and commitment to others, and especially for her devotion to her 2 boys. This week at Balmoral, we have all been trying to help William and Harry come to terms with the devastating loss that they and the rest of us have suffered. No one who knew Diana will ever forget her. Millions of others who never met her, but felt they knew her, will remember her.
Harry was only 12. His world would never be the same.
I, for one, believe there are lessons to be drawn from her life and from the extraordinary and moving reaction to her death. I share in your determination to cherish her memory.
Well, the news of Diana's death was hugely shocking. I remember tuning into the news first thing in the morning. My mother came in and said, Princess Diana's dead, and just absolute disbelief. Just none of us could believe that this wonderful woman had died. The boys were told early in the morning, before they would have had a chance to have turned the news on. It was Charles who broke the news because William and Harry were at Balmoral. The Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh were also in residence, and Charles had received a call from his private secretary very late in the night to say that Diana had been involved in a serious accident in a tunnel in Paris, and that he would be posted, which he duly was, and he was informed that she had died, and so the duty of telling his sons fell to him, and it was a truly awful time for Charles, the realisation that his estranged wife had died, that he was going to have to raise his sons as a sole parent, and in the immediate future, how on earth was he going to break this unimaginably awful, tragic news to his sons? But he did, to William first and to Harry afterwards, and they did that together. William said to Charles, I need to be there when you tell Harry, and he was.
You know, I remember the day William and Harry came back to Kensington Palace after their mother died. I remember standing in the hallway, and William walked in and shook my hand and asked me if I was all right. I said, I'm fine, thank you. Harry ran down the corridor, flung his arms around me and broke his heart. I still remember his tears wet my shirt through. He was broken-hearted.
William particularly took a lot of coaxing to walk behind his mother's coffin. It was something he didn't feel that he was going to be able to do. And it was in fact the Duke of Edinburgh who at the last minute said, you must do it because you'll regret it if you don't. And if you do it, I'll do it. Because the Duke of Edinburgh was never due to walk behind the coffin. So to give the boys strength, Philip did it. And it was an amazing thing for him to do as a grandfather. But I think certainly, without a doubt, for the boys, the hardest public duty, because it was so public for them, that they would ever have had to have carried out. And they were both so young, and the enormity of what had happened, the grief that they were coping with, I'm sure hadn't settled in by that point. But I think hearts broke around the world. People watched that funeral all over the globe when they saw the coffin passing and that little envelope on the top with a wreath of flowers with the word mummy, which had been handwritten by Harry.
William and Harry are acutely aware of where things went wrong in the press in their early life. And there's an argument, quite a strong one, to suggest that the wheels so spectacularly fell off Diana's life and her public image and how she was portrayed in the press and how she was pursued by journalists and photographers that contributed to her tragic demise.
Prince Harry's military experience was fraught with security concerns. He joined Sandhurst in 2005, and in 2006, it was announced that he was to be deployed to Iraq the following year. This led to a fierce public debate. In May, just before the prince was scheduled to be deployed, the head of the British Army, General Sir Richard Donnet, announced that Harry would be too high-value a target and endanger his fellow soldiers, thus would not be deployed. Harry made public his disappointment, but accepted the decision.
I have decided today that Prince Harry will not deploy as a troop leader with his squadron. I've come to this final decision following a further and wide round of consultation, including a visit to Iraq for myself at the end of last week. There have been a number of specific threats, some reported, some not reported, which relate directly to Prince Harry as an individual. These threats expose not only him, but also those around him to a degree of risk that I now deem unacceptable.
I wouldn't have joined the army unless I thought I was going to. Simple as that. If they said no, you can't go frontline, then I wouldn't drag my sorry ass through Sandhurst, and I wouldn't be where I am now.
In February 2008, the British Ministry of Defense revealed that Harry had been secretly deployed to Helmand Province in Afghanistan. There, he operated as a forward air controller. He helped Gurkha troops repel an attack from Taliban insurgents and patrolled hostile territories. Harry attended Defense Helicopter Flying School at RAF Shawbury, joining his brother William, who was completing his training to be a search and rescue pilot.
I think the struggle that I was talking about was mainly the exams and stuff like that. When you sort of the helicopter course, you start with something like 4 or 5 weeks of ground school and exams. Exams never been my favourite, and I always knew that I was going to find it harder than most people. But I'm through that now, and finally got hands-on to a job that I absolutely adore. It is still hard work, but I'm better than William, so it's fine.
Yeah, just that. You've been helping him with the exam? Yeah, an awful lot. He needs a lot of help. It's the RAF way, so you have to help the army out quite a lot.
Does it come down to sort of mental maths tests? Or?
Yeah, a bit of that. A few trick questions, try and catch them out.
7, 8?
Yeah, exactly. Lots of that.
But Harry, seriously, is this fundamentally and crucially about getting back to the front line?
It is. I've always had a love for helicopters. I've always wanted to be a pilot, mainly of helicopters more than fixed wing, even though I'm slightly under the impression that fixed wing is probably easier than helicopters, especially as these things aren't designed to fly. But I'm really enjoying it, and as everyone knows, it is my easiest way of getting back onto the front line. And maybe safer, maybe not safer, I don't know. But there's a bit of pressure from certain places, which I'm sure you're aware of the reasons why I'm allowed to go back. And if I do go back, then apparently I can't do the same job as I had. So I'm looking somewhere different and more of a challenge to try and become a helicopter pilot.
So was it made pretty clear to you after the last time in Afghanistan that it would be your first and last time, that it was too risky for you to go back as a soldier?
More the fact that I think the media had said that they would never keep their mouths shut if I went into the same job, so I'd have to do something different if I wanted to go, yes.
But you are hopeful, confident and passionate that you do get back by this means, that you get back to the front line?
Massively so, unless they stop flying helicopters out in Afghanistan soon, which hopefully they won't do. But, as I said, I love flying helicopters, or I'm loving flying helicopters at the moment. I just hope that I can be better than the best. That's what I always strive to be spot on. But, as I said, to get out to Afghanistan again would be fantastic, and my best chance is to be a helicopter, is to do it from a helicopter. And
you got off the ground yet?
Sorry?
You got off the ground yet?
Just got off the ground, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Thanks for asking.
Sorry.
Harry's time in the military consequently inspired much of his charitable work when he returned to royal duties. This includes the internationally successful Invictus Games. He was juggling the spotlight of the royal family with a burning need to maintain his privacy. but it was unsustainable. Sooner or later, things would have to change. Perhaps another reason Prince Harry wanted out of the firm was a growing feeling of not fitting in. After his time in the army, Prince Harry returned to find his closest friend, his brother Prince William, was able to spend less and less time with him, as he had a wife and growing family of his own. Despite this royal trio, Harry, William, and Kate did launch a hugely successful mental health initiative called Heads Together. Harry even mentioned the difficulty he has on a regular basis of coping with the loss of his mother at such a young age.
I've known those two boys, William and Harry, since they were born. I used to change their nappies. They used to call me Uncle Paul. I've always been there, and I've watched them grow. I'm very proud of them. They're lovely boys. So the public must know William, although he looks like his mother, is more like his father. He's studious, he's very careful, he's very respectful, he's duty-bound. Harry, on the other hand, is a hybrid of the Spencers' red hair and the Windsors, but he has his mother's naughty streak. Harry is the fun guy. Harry was always the boy that would take apart the television set. The video recorder, he would have in bits and want then to put it back together again. Harry was always the soldier, William was always the general. So when my two boys visited and they played war games, William had an army that he could direct. He was always the leader. That was his role from the moment he was born. But Harry's happy to muck in. So if I needed help in my pantry at Highgrove, if he needed help mucking out the stable, I'd be there for him, he'd be there for me. Harry will muck in with anyone. Harry's a fun boy. I don't like to see him put down in the media. I like to say Harry's a great boy, give him the chance to prove it, and I think you'll see.
You sort of have the three Harrys, really. The sensitive little boy, the fighting man, and the idiot. And I think people love him for all three of those things. I think it's probably very difficult being the second son, because you don't really have a defined role. You're just the joker in the pack. The attention is very much focused on the eldest child, as it was with William. I mean, Diana made a very conscious effort not to allow that to happen, but of course it did. Harry became important by, being this big character, being this brave boy. So I think it does affect these kids. I mean, when you look at Princess Margaret, she never found the happiness she should have done. She was always completely in the shadow of her elder sister because her elder sister was Queen. And when you think of the Queen's children, and Princess Anne said she used to feel like an also-ran.
I think when it comes to Prince Harry, it's obvious that there's huge affection between the two brothers. Even when he was very little, when he was 10, 11 years old, and he'd see the girls starting to scream because Prince William was coming along because he was that bit older and they could see he was very handsome. We're told Prince Harry would encourage the girls to scream and just because he knew it really embarrassed his brother. So he seems to be the more playful one, Prince Harry. And again, that would bear out what the Princess of Wales said in that Panorama interview about he's a more more of a Spencer wild child than William is. And we can see it, can't we, in the pictures we see and his antics and the kind of things he likes to do. But I also get the impression from the times we've seen the two together talking to one another and about one another and about that, because they've spoken about their closeness as brothers, that you get the feeling that Prince William, for all his understanding of the seriousness of his role in the future, you get the feeling that he makes it very clear that he needs his brother and he values that more, perhaps childlike, fun element that's in his life, which I think is a fantastic testament to both their parents, but I just think it's a really, because whatever the Diana story is, whatever happened, it's just so sad that a really young mother didn't see her sons grow up. And it's just such a lovely legacy, I think, for any mother who's been lost to her children. Such a great legacy that they seem so close.
Yeah, in January 2005, I ran a story about Prince Harry, a picture that we got of Prince Harry going to a party, actually with William, and he was wearing a Nazi outfit. It created a huge sting. William's reaction to the Nazi story, when he had a chance to bend my ear about it, was very sweet, and it was a sort of the way I'd like my big brother to stick up for me if I'd been put in the papers and obviously something I'd done had upset people. So, yeah, I mean, there is something very special with William and Harry, that they are extremely close. And anything bad for Harry, William will stick up for him to the nth degree. And likewise, Harry's very protective of William, and now Kate as well.
Harry is a party creature. He always will be. So obviously he's going to get caught out.
Prince Harry, I won't say dropped out of school, but he came very close to dropping out of Eton. He left with some rather appalling exam results. And there was a delay before he joined the army, which was really his only option. University wasn't on the table. In that period, I think Harry now, by his own admission, would say that he went through a very bad patch and got himself in all kinds of scrapes. The Nazi outfit being just one of quite a long list. Punching a photographer outside a nightclub was another. Harry learnt a lot in that small period of time, and I don't think at that stage in his life anybody could have said anything to him that he would have taken notice of, but luckily he's grown up since then.
And then, of course, there's the notorious strip at Vegas, which was really, really wild. Every misdemeanor that Harry's had has sort of leaked out to the press because we all want to see Harry being Harry. The more family and children that William and Kate have, and the more sort of mumsy she gets, the more people are going to want naughty Harry. So I don't see any respite for him, I really don't. I think people are going to want more of Harry because he's still the bachelor prince.
From 2005 to 2010, Harry was seeing Zimbabwean national Chelsea Davy. In 2012, he dated Cressida Bonas for 2 years. Both relationships collapsed because the royal outsiders could not deal with the overwhelming press and public attention.
Chelsea and Cressida both loved him very much, and they both probably felt differently about it, but neither of them fancied that kind of life.
In 2016, it was reported that Prince Harry was seeing American Suits star Meghan Markle.
We were introduced actually by a mutual friend. It was through her, and then we met once and then twice back to back, 2 dates in London last July.
Yes.
Beginning of July.
Harry and Meghan's first date was at Soho House's Dean Street townhouse in 2016. They got on so well that after just 3 hours, they decided to return for a romantic dinner the next evening.
So they met through a mutual friend who set them up really on a blind date, and they had their first date at Soho House in London in 2016.
Meghan ticked all Harry's boxes, and it goes without saying that he was head over heels for her after just those first 2 dates.
And then, of course, you know, with Meghan living and working at the time in Toronto in Canada, where she was filming Suits, and Harry being based in London, they realised they would have to really go out their way to make time for each other very quickly. So within a few weeks of that first date, they were on holiday together in Botswana.
After those first 2 dates, Harry whisked Meghan away to his favorite place in the world, Botswana. He told Meghan to fly to the UK and leave the rest to him.
Prince Harry had dated a string really, of beautiful English socialites. They tended to be blonde and willowy, very great backgrounds, wealthy families, went to the right schools. However, what Meghan brought to the equation was a lot of humanitarian work that Harry's ex-girlfriends just couldn't even touch with a 10-foot pole. Meghan had actually worked for the UN. She'd gone on missions and trips to support women and children in the developing world. Meghan had been a global humanitarian long before she met Prince Harry. And I think as Harry was very close to stepping into his full role as a member of the royal family, the possibility of meeting someone who was equally passionate and engaged about changing the world and helping other people was extremely attractive to Harry. I think if you watch the engagement interview that Harry and Meghan did on BBC, and they talk about their first meeting and how they instantly connected, it's apparent that yes, there was a mutual attraction, but it went far beyond the physical. Meghan and Harry were attracted to what each other believed in and what each other wanted to do in the world.
Things seemed too good to be true. And back at the palace, whispers were starting to spread about concerns that the couple were moving too quickly. According to a source close to the couple, Prince Harry was cautioned early on to take his time with this girl from his brother. Prince Harry didn't take lightly his words of warning. He took the advice to be the embodiment of the snobbery that the royal institution oozed to him.
I think Meghan had quite a difficult initial period after their relationship was confirmed, and we know this because Harry issued a statement defending her and sort of warning people off. She described it as disheartening and discriminatory, but Harry himself mentioned sort of racial undertones, which is pretty upsetting for anyone concerned. And I think, it is a difficult situation when you're thrust into the glare of media interest. The royal family garner a huge amount of attention, and we know that they're not necessarily delighted by it, but they work closely with the media to get their messages across. But I think nothing prepared Harry and Meghan for the wave of interest that followed the announcement of their relationship. And in fact, it was Harry's statement that confirmed they were a couple for the first time. I think it's a really difficult one because they are going to have to get used to the scrutiny, but it's only right that she's treated fairly, and I think it was upsetting for everyone to see that she'd been, caused problems by this coverage.
There's a misconception that because I have worked in the entertainment industry that this would be something I would be familiar with, but even though I'd been on my show for, 6 years at that point, and working before that, I've never been part of tabloid culture. I've never been in pop culture to that degree, and lived relatively quiet life, even though I focused so much on my job. And so that was a really stark difference out of the gate. But, and I think we were just hit so hard at the beginning with a lot of mistruths that I made the choice to not read anything, positive or negative. It just didn't make sense. And instead we focused all of our energies just on nurturing our relationship.
On us. Yeah.
On us.
There is no doubt that when anybody marries into the royal family, the media immediately start looking into the background and the family of that person. I mean, with Meghan, it was quite easy because she'd been very public on social media and on the internet. She'd spoken about her biracial background, the fact that her ancestors were slaves. She'd spoken extensively about her charity work as well. So we had a really quite graphic picture of the type of woman she was, a feminist, somebody who believed in speaking out about her mixed race background. And I think that all of this actually was positive, in my opinion, because it gave the media a platform on which they could base their stories.
Meghan Markle is a California girl. In fact, her dad, Thomas, was in the film industry. He worked on set. And one of Meghan's earliest memories, actually, and what she says inspired her to be an actress, was being on set of the show Married with Children, a show that her dad worked on for years as a lighting director, I believe. Meghan grew up very much, not so much in the industry, but close kind of on the periphery of show business. I think she got a real taste of it from a very early age. And Meghan was always a natural performer. We've seen videos of her in school plays. We know that she was always kind of gravitating towards the stage and being on stage. Meghan seemed to do really well with the kind of attention and scrutiny that came with being an actress. And there's no doubt that really from an early age, Meghan always kind of stood out from the rest of her peers.
But now that it is all official, Prince Harry, do you have that sense that the combination of the two of you, your different backgrounds, that you together represent something new for the royal family?
I don't know if it's something new. I think it's, you know, it's for me, it's an added member of the family. It's another team player as part of the bigger team. And you know, for all of us, all we want to do is be able to carry out the right engagements, carry out our work, and try and encourage others and the younger generation to be able to see the world in the correct sense, rather than perhaps having a distorted view. So you know, the fact that I fell in love with Meghan so incredibly quickly was sort of confirmation to me that everything, all the stars were aligned, everything was just perfect. It was this beautiful woman just sort of literally tripped and fell into my life. I fell into her life, and the fact that I know the fact that she'll be really unbelievably good at the job part of it as well is obviously a huge relief to me, because she'll be able to deal with everything else that comes with it. But no, you know, we're a fantastic team. We know we are, and we hope to, you know, over time, try and have as much impact for all the things that we care about as much as possible.
I am very excited about that, yeah.
From the initial announcement of their relationship, to the engagement, and all the way to the wedding, Harry and Meghan were the hottest headline in every newspaper. All that attention began to cause more and more problems.
Everyone was excited. The crowds were enormous. As you came up that very famous park, it was mobbed. I mean, both sides of where their carriage was going to go was thousands and thousands of people stood back to back, ready to cheer them on. The applause, the cheers as they drove through Windsor were deafening. There was a tremendous amount of love and support for Meghan and Harry on their special day.
Meanwhile, in the palace, there was a lack of trust towards Meghan, and there were fears that the couple's domination of the headlines would eclipse other senior members of the royal family. On the 15th of October 2018, the happy couple announced that they were expecting a baby in the spring of 2019. The announcement came as a surprise to the world, and many sent their congratulations and best wishes via social media. On May 6th, at 5:26 in the morning, Harry and Meghan became parents to their new son, Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor.
In the lead up to the birth, Harry and Meghan both said they didn't want to know the sex. They wanted it to be a surprise, so they had to obviously then choose girl and boy names. Had it been a girl, Diana was very much a favorite name, and I believe it was very likely that Diana would have been the first name, or at least in the middle of that long name. And the reason is, you know, from the beginning, Harry and William both have included their mother whenever possible in their relationship. And I think it grieved them both that she wasn't there when they married. She wasn't there to see her grandchildren. And so I believe with all my heart, Diana is probably in future going to be a girl's name for this pair. In terms of boys' names, there were a lot of names initially floated around. They were all connected with royal tradition, but not typically traditional.
Good to see you. So you want me over here?
Yes, so X marks the spot.
X marks the spot.
Lovely horses in the background. Nice. That's all ready. Right. Prince Harry, have you got any news you want to share with us and the world?
Yes, I'm very excited to announce that Meghan and myself had a baby boy.
The baby was born at 5:26 a.m. He was 7 pounds 3 ounces. It's a very good size, actually bigger than Harry was when he was born. And he was born, we believe, at the Portland Hospital. Meghan and Harry have been doing things their own way. They have made a statement, a clear statement, that this baby belongs to them, not the public. In my understanding, this is somewhat unprecedented when there's this much interest and when the royals are determined to keep it to themselves. Harry and William had very different experiences as new fathers. Harry's was a lot more private. But having said that, you know, of course you have to remember William is in a far different position than Harry. William will be king. Harry will never be king. So I think the standards are not the same. The expectation isn't as high. And Harry and Meghan hopefully will be allowed more privacy.
Who does he take after? Does he look like anyone?
We're still trying to figure that out.
So everyone says the baby's changed so much over 2 weeks. We're basically sort of monitoring how the changing process happens over this next month, really. But his looks are changing every single day. Yeah. So who knows?
And how you find parenting generally? Is it still a special moment?
Yeah, that's great. I mean, parenting is amazing. It's only been, what, 2.5 days, 3 days?
Yeah.
But we're just so thrilled to have our own little bundle of joy and to be able to spend some precious times with him as he slowly starts to grow up.
And I hear you're off to see 2 special people in a minute.
Yes.
The Queen and the Duke.
Yes, and we just bumped into the Duke as we were walking by, which was so nice. So it'll be a nice moment to introduce the baby to more family, and my mom's with us as well. So it's been a really, here we go.
Another great grandchild.
Yes.
The couple decided that they wanted to leave royal life behind and make a break for freedom. But the palace were not receptive. Prince Harry and his wife Meghan considered the extreme measure of breaking royal protocol to contact the Queen, as tensions grew in the royal family. Despite the infamous crisis meeting to decide their future on January 13th, the couple announced by March 31st, 2020, that they were officially leaving the royal family, would no longer use their titles, and would become financially independent.
Look, they're clearly very unhappy with the royal existence that they have at the moment and the way that their public life impinges on them. It's something they clearly want to change. Many people have sympathy with that. It's understandable. The crux of the matter is you can't be half royal. You can be part of the royal machine. You can accept the privileges that go with it, but also take the restrictions and all that, and you live in a sort of bubble, or you can stand back. I mean, the next generation of Dukes of Kent, Dukes of Gloucester, they're private citizens. No one would recognise them in the street. You can go down that route if you want. What you can't do is to be sort of transatlantic royals who drop in, do a bit of royal stuff, but then go off to do this sort of financial independence stuff in LA or Toronto, wherever it is.
I think the whole plan that Harry and Meghan have is a really problematic one, because they're talking about stepping back. Their critics would argue, about having their cake and eat it. They're talking about one day representing the Queen on a foreign tour to another country, on another day, say in North America, earning serious money with some sort of endorsement of some sort of product. The risk is that those two things aren't compatible. The risk is that their pursuit of money will tarnish the Windsor brand and tarnish the House of Windsor. I mean, this is the real problem for the Queen and Prince Charles. They are dealing with this as a grandmother and as a father on the one hand, and they're also dealing with it as the protector of an ancient dynasty. And we have seen that how, as protectors of the ancient dynasty, when they need to, they act brutally, as they did with Prince Andrew when they removed him from public office. There may be a point that at some stage that the Queen, Charles and William believe that what Meghan and Harry are proposing is a threat to the institution of the British monarchy, then they will act.
On March 7th at 8 p.m., CBS aired a landmark interview with Harry and his wife Meghan, led by TV legend Oprah Winfrey. The 2-hour interview has drawn international attention as it put the spotlight on many issues, old and new.
I think there is now an allegation of racism hanging over a member or members of the royal family. We don't know who, as we said earlier, not the Queen, not the Duke of Edinburgh, but beyond that, we don't know who. Harry and Meghan wouldn't say. And nor do we know the context in which this remark was made. But we do know, from what we've heard, that both Harry, when he heard it, and Meghan, when it was passed on, took offence to it, and therefore that is an issue for them. And also, I think there's slightly wider questions for us as society. Harry said that he left in part because of racism in the UK. What does that mean for us? Do we need to look at ourselves a bit more? And I think then on the general point for Buckingham Palace, why is it that Meghan was unable to sort of fit in? Why couldn't she get the help she needed when she desperately needed it? Although I should also point out, last week there was that bullying complaint revealed against Meghan that the Human Resources Department had to look into as well. So there's a lot there.
In more hopeful news, the couple announced that they were expecting a baby girl in the summer of 2021. Now, living in Los Angeles with their son Archie, Harry and Meghan are putting their business sense to good use as they prepare to launch a new brand and base for their future endeavors. Later that same month, Prince Harry announced that he was set to become the Chief Impact Officer at Better Up. Better Up, which was founded in 2013, provides mobile-based professional coaching, counseling, and mentorship. The firm says it has some 2,000 coaches offering services in 49 languages in 66 countries. In a statement, Prince Harry said that he was really excited about his new role. Life looks to be undergoing a dramatic change for Prince Harry as he begins a new life with his growing family in Los Angeles. Hopefully now, he can finally enjoy the freedom and privacy that life as part of the royal machine could never allow. This is a new chapter for a new Prince Harry, a new kind of royal.